Good morning, my dear students. I am Dr. Waldbecker from Biochemistry Department. In the last class, we were discussing about the glycogenesis, that is, when the formed glucose, which after eating of your food and other things, which will be stored in the liver and muscle, that will be referred as the glycogenesis. Whereas that stored glucose, if it is broken down and formed again into the glucose or in the form of energy to the various organs and tissues of the body, that pathway will be referred as glycogenolysis. So difference is, one is synthesizing and another one, synthesizing means storing of the glucose, whereas breaking of that glucose, which stored form is called as the glycogen, and that one bringing back to the glucose form, that is referred as the glycogenolysis. Though it structures as opposite to each other, they are having the different pathway, and the enzymes, the reactions, they are totally different from each other. So apart from that one, when glucose is formed in the body, it is stored in the glycogen form, and if body is deprived of supply of the glucose, and when once the stored form of the glycogen is not made available, then body will have an alternate system for the provision of continuation of the glucose to the some important organs like the brain. So that one is identified with the one pathway that is called as the gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is the one pathway wherein there will be the formation of glucose from the non-carbohydrate sources. So, in short, you can think this way, that what the fat will be the one from which the breakdown of this one will be taken and converted into the energy one, that can be considered as the one deposit you are doing in the bank system, that is fixed deposit for the storage of the glucose in the form of the fat by other means. And if the glycogen is made available for the use, that one you can consider as a saving or current account. So this way you can understand it, the meaning of or the use of these different pathways. So today we are seeing about or discussing about the metabolism of glycogenolysis. Through the glycogenolysis, the carbohydrate metabolism. It is a process by which the glucose or the carbohydrate which gets deposited in the liver or the muscle cells, it is broken down to provide the energy for the maintenance of various body activities and to maintain the normal range of blood glucose level in a healthy person. So glycogenesis, glycogenolysis. So you have to know the differentiation between these two. So when the blood glucose drop at the lower level, where there can be the symptoms of the hypoglycemia is there, then there will be the release of the hormones like epinephrine and glucagon, which are the one which stimulates the glycogenolysis to restore the blood glucose level to the normal. Epinephrine is the one which acts on to release the glycogenolysis. Similarly, the glucagon is the another hormone which acts for the release of the glucose from the liver and muscle. So these are the one exactly working opposite to the insulin one. Insulin is the one which inhibits the buildup of the glucose, whereas these two hormones are the one which tries to stimulate the glycogenolysis, and ultimately all these hormones they work in a very good coordinated way to restore the blood glucose level in the normal level. So we just see the structure where there is the glycogen structure. It has got the two glycosidic linkages are there, which we have seen in the last class, that the formation of two types, that is one alpha 1,4 and alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkages. By this one, they get bound each other. So here, the pathway of glycogenolysis is the one breaking of these bonds only. Glycosidic linkages are the bonds. Please remember that the synthesis and degradation of the glycogen are not reversible one. Though they clicks or give the idea that they are opposite to each other, but their pathway are different from each other. An independent set of the enzymes are working which are taking care of these two pathways, and these are taking place in the cytosol. So by the breaking of these linkages or the bonds, the glycogen will be degraded, which I had shown you in the last slide. So the glycogenolysis, it is accomplished, it is consisting of two principal processes. They are the phosphorylasis and hydrolysis. These are the two steps that are occurring in the pathway of glycogenolysis. So when any definition is asked, this one should be given. When the blood glucose level falls, when person is feeling hypoglycemia, the normal range for the blood glucose is fasting 70 to 110, and postprandial it is up to 140, and any random blood sugar, the blood glucose level will be up to 200 milligram per deciliter. So when the person's blood glucose level falls less than 50 or even lesser to that 45, like that one, the person will start feeling the weakness, numbness, and other all symptoms will start appearing. That condition will be called as the hypoglycemia. So when the blood glucose level falls less than this range what I have mentioned, so the tissues of the glycogen which are settled in the liver and muscle will be broken down and will be formed into the glucose. So the breaking down of the glycogen from the liver and muscle is called as the glycogenolysis. So in that the pathway there are few steps are there. The first step is the breakdown of the glycogen by the two enzymes which they are acting independently. They are acting very independently on this glycogen. The glycogen will be broken down. First enzyme that is called as glycogen phosphorylase. It is a inorganic phosphate that catalyzes the cleavage at the alpha 1,4 bondage of the glycogen, and it forms a molecule of glucose 1 phosphate. The matter concerned to this enzyme, that is glycogen phosphorylase, is that it cannot cleave the 1,6 linkages. You have seen that one? It has got two linkages. One is alpha 1,4 bond and another one is alpha 1,6 linkage or the bond. But the action of this glycogen phosphorylase is only pertaining to the cleavage of the 1,4 bond of the glycogen, and it will produce the glucose 1 phosphate. The breaking of this 1,6 bondage, it will be done by the another enzyme called as debranching enzyme, that is alpha 1,6 glucosidase. So here it hydrolyzes these bonds and make the more 1,4 linkage accessible to the action of glycogen phosphorylase. So the two enzymes are going to act in this one, that is glycogen phosphorylase, and another one is the debranching enzyme alpha 1,6 glucosidase. Here you can see the action, how it has taken place. From the glycogen, it is acted upon by the two enzymes, that is glycogen phosphorylase, and another one glycogen phosphorylase is related to the alpha 1,4 linkage, whereas the debranching enzyme is the one which is acting upon the 1,6 alpha 1,6 linkage, and there will be the formation of glucose 1 phosphate. Now in the step second, this glucose 1 phosphate which is formed, however, it is the reversibly converted to glucose 6 phosphate by the action of one enzyme called as phosphoglucomutase. It is the one acted upon by the enzyme phosphoglucomutase. So this glucose 1 phosphate will be converted into glucose 6 phosphate. This is the product that will be formed in the second step. And next reaction is the conversion of glucose 6 phosphate to the glucose 1. It takes place in the kidney and the liver by the enzyme glucose 6 phosphatase. So glucose 6 phosphatase, it removes the phosphate group from the free glucose and diffuse from the cell into the extracellular spaces. The reaction, it won't occur in the muscles because muscle is the one which is lacking the glucose 6 phosphatase. So ultimately the glucose 1 phosphate which is formed, it is converted into glucose 6 phosphate by the one phosphoglucomutase, and then from then glucose 6 phosphatase is the enzyme which converts glucose 6 phosphate into the glucose. So the liver is the major storage organ to provide the glucose for the circulation to be supplied to the various tissues. However, the glucose 6 phosphate is absent in the muscle, and about 8 to 10% of the glycogen glycogen is produced in the glycogenesis due to the action of debranching enzyme, that is alpha 1,6 glucosidase activity. So the formation of glucose will take place in the muscle by the enzyme called as the alpha 1,6 glucosidase activity. So therefore, please remember, though the muscle and liver are the storage organ, the liver is the one which has got the major storage for the having the capacity of utilizing or providing the space for the glucose comparing to the muscle. So the last third step, that is glucose 6 phosphate is getting converted into the glucose by the enzyme glucose 6 phosphatase. So it is the overall reaction. Glycogen, it gets acted upon by the two enzymes, that is glycogen phosphorylase and debranching enzyme. Glycogen phosphorylase is the one which is acting upon the 1,4 linkage, whereas debranching enzyme is the one which acts on the glycosidic linkage, that is of the 1,6 linkage, and then the glycogen, because of these two enzymes, it will be get converted into glucose 1 phosphate. From glucose 1 phosphate, because of the action of the enzyme called as phosphoglucomutase, it is converted into glucose 6 phosphate, and this glucose 6 phosphate is getting converted into the glucose by the enzyme called as the glucose 6 phosphatase. This is the reaction that takes place in the pathway that is called as the glycogenolysis. Glycogenolysis is the one that is breaking of the glycogen stored form of the glucose in the liver, which is glycogen. This glycogen is finally converted into the glucose by attaining these three steps. So the flow chart for the glycogenolysis is this way. Now the degradation glycogens, it taken by some lysosomal acid maltase. It is also one which helps here. This enzyme, it continuously degrades the small quantity of the glycogen, but in some inherited diseases, when there is the lack of this enzyme, that is lysosomal enzyme, that is called as the acid alpha 1,4 glucosidase. In short, it is called as the GAA. That is, because of lack of these enzymes, there can be the accumulation of the glycogen will be taking place, which will be referred as one name, that is called as the Pompe disease, which is in general it is referred as the glycogen storage disease. This glycogen storage disease are of the different names, so we will discuss them in the next class. However, here this Pompe disease is the one which is a inherited case, which is occurring about one case is reported out of 40 to 50,000 population. Very rare case where there will be the lack of one enzyme that is called GAA, that is alpha 1,4 glucosidase. This disease is a one where you will find accumulation or built up of the glycogen in the body cells you are finding. So the symptoms related to this one will be the muscle weakness, and there will be some problem with the breathing and infection with the lungs, and the proper growth or weight gain, picking up the weight will not be there. However, they are considering the enzyme replacement therapy is the one which is referred to the refer to the disease to be treated. And also there is one treatment is called as the glycosidase alpha, that is acid alpha glucosidase alpha is the one treatment or the drug that is given for the patients who are suffering from this type of the disease, and that will be given intravenously. So the infants who are affected, who may get affected, they should be treated as early as possible, otherwise the cases will be in the fatal one. So this is one which is referred to the storage of the glycogen, which you can call as in general or in a broader way, that is glycogen storage disease. So now coming to this regulation of glycogenesis and glycogenolysis, it is has to be done properly ultimately to maintain the homeostasis of the blood glucose level. So when one is working, another will be in a off position. Off means OFF, that is off position. So it will be vice versa. So this way, these are working together in a very coordinated way, and that way they are regulating the blood glucose. They are glycogenesis, glycogenolysis, they are regulated by the enzyme. They are called as the glycogen synthase and glycogen phosphorylase. Phosphorylase, they are the two enzymes which are getting applicable to these pathways. These are the one which are regulated by the allosteric way and the hormones like the insulin and glucagon. As I said earlier, the insulin is the one which inhibits the rise in the level of the glucose, whereas the glucagon, epinephrine are the hormones which will be regulating or stimulating the blood glucose level to be raised. Or so in short, these are the hormones which will be helping to maintain the homeostasis. So first one is allosteric regulation. So there are certain metabolites that will allostatically regulated the activities of glycogen synthase and glycogen phosphorylase. It is dependent on the energy state of the cell. In short, what is that? These two pathways will be operating in such a way that if one is operating, another will be silent or it will be not working. So glycogen synthesis increased when the availability of the glucose is more. So glycogen synthesis will be taking place when glucose is more or abundant, then it will be stored in the form of the glycogen. And exactly in the reverse way, the glycogen breakdown will be done by the uh, pathway when glucose concentration or the energy are low, or the patient or the person is suffering hypoglycemia. In the fed state, the glucose 6 phosphate will be plenty, and it will activates glycogen synthase and glycogen synthesis will be favored. On other hand, glucose 6 phosphate and ATP, they inhibit the glycogen phosphorylase. The two enzymes are there where when more amount of the glucose is there, then glucose 6 phosphate will be more, which will be activating the glycogen synthase, and glycogen synthesis will be favored, whereas the same one, it will inhibit the glycogen phosphorylase. So the enzymes, the hormones I told you just now, that these are the one which results in the phosphorylation and dephosphorylation of these key enzymes, and accordingly they try to maintain the level of the glucose in a normal way. Here, the hormone epinephrine and glucagon, they stimulate the G protein system in the target organ. G protein system means it is called as guanine nucleotide binding proteins. They are the one type of the proteins that are acting as the switches inside the cells, and also they transmit the signals to stimulate the from the outside into the interior one. Here the G protein system, it is the one which will be helping or signaling the production of cyclic AMP. So the cyclic AMP is the one which is acting as the second messenger. So here the two forms will be there, that is adenylyl cyclase and adenylyl cyclase. These will be in the two conditions, that is in a one is the in a inactive one and another one is the active one. So this epinephrine is giving rise to the formation of cyclic AMP, that is the original source is the ATP only, and because of this phosphodiesterase, this will be converted into 5-MP, that is totally different, whereas this cyclic AMP is the one which converts the inactive, the cyclic dependent protein kinase into the cyclic payment dependent protein kinase. So what happens by this one, the glycogen gets inhibited here, it gets inhibited, whereas similarly this one is the one which is making this product glycosynthesis active one, and because of this another enzyme protein phosphates 1 that makes the glycogenesis in a active form one. So this one is the one which is going into the cyclic formation. So you will come to know better with the next slide. So this glycogenesis is regulated by the glycogen synthase. It exists in the two forms. One is active one and another one is the inactive one. So inactive and active form. So the active form of synthase, it is inactivated through the phosphorylation by the cyclic AMP dependent protein kinase. Because of the protein kinase, this inactive one, the active form of the glycolysis is inactivated by the phosphorylation, and this enzyme will be reactivated by the dephosphorylation by the separate enzyme, that is protein phosphate. This is the one which takes and it helps for the reactivation of this enzyme by the enzyme called as the protein phosphatase. So the same one, it is hormonal regulation of glycogen metabolism, that is by the glucagon and epinephrine. This way the regulation will be done, and apart from that one, there is the calcium ions are the one which are also helping for the glycogenolysis, that is glycogen degradation. During the activation of the constant contraction of the skeletal muscle, there will be always release of the calcium ions from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. These are the one which is present in the muscle cells. So it helps to promote the actin and myosin interactions. So this will help to release or activate the phosphorylase kinase. Because of the release of these calcium ions, and which in turn activates the phosphorylase kinase, then this action will be taking place. So this is how the regulation of the glycogenesis and glycogenolysis will be taking place. Ultimately, the goal of the these two enzymes are to regulate or to maintain the normal level of the blood glucose in the blood. So now we are coming to the another one pathway that is called as the HMP pathway. So HMP pathway or HMP chain, it is also called as the pentose phosphate pathway or phosphogluconate pathway. It is the one which is identified as the alternative pathway for the glycolysis and TCA cycle for the oxidation of the glucose. You all know that the glycolysis or the TCA are the one which are one meant for the oxidation of the glucose. However, there is one more pathway that is called as the HMP pathway. So the HMP pathway, however, it is anabolic in nature, means it is the one which gives rise to, or its characteristics is of the synthesis one. The what it is synthesizing? It is synthesizing the one products like NADPH and pentoses. So these are the two things that will be formed from this pathway, and these two which will be formed will be further utilized for the formation or the synthesis of other molecules there. So by this pathway, the liver and RBCs, they metabolize about 30% of the glucose. And now these tissues like liver, adipose tissue, erythrocytes, they are the one which are actually very active in this pathway, and they are mostly involved in the biosynthesis of the fatty acids and steroids, which are dependent on the supply of the NADPH. It means the formation of two products, that is the NADPH and pentoses, are obtainable from this pathway, and the this NADPH is the one which is required for the biosynthesis of the fatty acids and steroids. And in the steroids, you may be knowing that the cholesterol is the one which requires the presence of the steroids, and this cholesterol is the one further it is required for the synthesis of the vitamin D. So why it is called as the parallel pathway? It may be the one curiosity that pentose phosphate way, it breaks down the glucose into the carbon dioxide and it generates the NADPH first thing, and another one the 5 carbon sugar. So it is considered as the parallel or alternative pathway for the glycolysis and Krebs cycle for the completion of the oxidase, as because glucose phosphatase can be completely oxidized to the carbon dioxide through this pathway, but degradation of this carbon skeleton, it will be taking one by one, not all the time, all at one time. So some importance of this HMP pathway, biomedical importance, is that it provides two things, that is one is NADPH, another one is the pentose sugar. So the NADPH is required for the formation of the fatty acids, steroids and some amino acids, and also for the detoxification of some drugs by the cytochrome 450, it needs the presence of or the NADPH, and also in scavenging the free radicals, that is the formation of hydrogen peroxide will lead to the formation of free radicals. So NADPH is the one which removes out these free radicals. And another thing, what the product that will be formed from this pathway, HMP pathway, is that this is the one which is very much useful for the synthesis of nucleic acid that is DNA, RNA, and nucleotides that is ATP, NAD, and FAD and coenzyme A. So these are the biological or biomedical importance of these two products, that is NADPH and the pentoses that are found as the products of this HMP pathway. So here no ATP is utilized as it is a anabolic one, and it is a unique multifunctional pathway because it is the products that will be found from this one. It will be further, it will be used for the different reactions, metabolical reactions, and they are the one which will be found from these two products. That's why it is called as the multifunctional pathway. And this HMP pathway, the steps in this pathway is considering of the two phases. Two phases are there. They are referred as the oxidative phase and non-oxidative phase. Two phases are there. So in the first step, that is oxidative phase, the pentose phosphate glucose is oxidized to generate the two molecules of NADPH. NADPH will be formed over two molecules in the first step only. It is the one which is irreversible one and very strongly exergonic, means it removes out the heat, and two molecules of the NADP are reduced, and there will be the formation of one molecule of the NADPH, and the formation will be that the glucose 6 phosphate will be converted into ribulose 5 phosphate, and the NADPH molecules that are formed can be used as a energy source in the other parts of the cell or the body. You can see the example, the reaction pathway here, that the glucose 6 phosphate is converted into the 6 phosphogluconate in the presence of the glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. Here there will be formation of one NADPH is there. That is the first step, and it will be followed by the hydrolysis of phosphogluconate to the ribulose 5 phosphate. So in the second reaction step, this 6 phosphogluconate, it is converted into ribulose 5 phosphate, and these are the two steps which requires NADP as the hydrogen acceptor, and here the second molecule of NADH is produced. The first one is here and second one is here. The two molecules of NADPH is be formed in the oxidative step. Now coming to the non-oxidative phase, the oxidative reaction which yields the NADPH and one molecule of this ribulose 5 phosphate, it serves as the substrate for the two enzymes, that phosphopentose isomerase and phosphopentose epimerase. You can see in the next slide that ribulose 5 phosphate will be isomerized by the ribose 5 phosphate to the ribose 5 phosphate with the enzyme called as the phosphopentose isomerase. This ribose 5 phosphate is the one, or its derivatives. You can find these presence in the components of the RNA, DNA, ATP, NAD and coenzyme A. This is the one product, how this will be formed in a non-oxidative phase. This one will be the component for the RNA, DNA and ATP. Next one is that this similarly, this as I said earlier, it will be acted upon by the two enzymes. The second one is the ribulose 5 phosphate will be undergoing the epimerization and by the enzyme called as the phosphopentose epimerase, and it will form xylulose 5 phosphate. So these series of rearrangement of these pentose sugars they are finally, what happens, they are getting converted into the glycolytic intermediates like fructose 6 phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate by the enzyme, two enzyme called as the transketolase and transaldolase. So this forming fructose 6 phosphate and glycerol phosphate will be formed by the help of these two enzymes. So xylulose 5 phosphate undergoing the reaction wherein the transketolase is the enzyme acting upon this one in presence of thymine pyrophosphate, that is the coenzyme, and there will be the formation of pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate plus glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate will be formed. And this one is requiring the TPP and magnesium ions. And in the second reaction, which is acted upon by the another enzyme, that is transaldolase, it is the one which transfers the 3 carbon dihydroxyacetone from the pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate, that is one pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate and 3 glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, and it forms into the fructose 6 phosphate and 4 carbon erythroase 4 phosphate. This is the second reaction where that will be acted upon by the transaldolase, and the formed components are fructose 6 phosphate and erythrose 4 phosphate. This fructose 6 phosphate, this will be further acted upon by the transketolase and forming the fructose 6 phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate will be formed, and these can be metabolized further under the heading of this glycolysis or TCA cycle, and the glucose can be formed. This is how the indirectly the intermediate products of HMP pathway will be helping for the formation of glucose by this way, that is by the formation of glucose 6 phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate. You can see here by the action of this transketolase, once again there will be formation of fructose 6 phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate, and this under the chain reaction it will be forming fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, fructose 6 phosphate, then glucose 6 phosphate, and this will be continued as in the recycling one. So this is the overall reaction that is taking place of the non-oxidative phase, wherein there will be the formation of fructose 6 phosphate and glycerol 3 phosphate. This will undergo further reactions and forming fructose 6 phosphate and glucose 6 phosphate. So now coming to some significance of this HMP pathway, that is, it is the one which provides a parallel or alternative route for the carbohydrate breakdown, and it generates NADPH molecules and also the ribose sugar for the synthesis of the nucleic acids, and NADPH is the one which participates in the fatty acid biosynthesis, and NADPH involves the glutathione reductase catalysis. This one which will be one which neutralizes the superoxide and hydroxyl radicals from the H2O2, that is hydroxyl peroxide one. So these are the uses of NADPH which will be helpful for the other activities to be taken place. Second one, that is it provides ribose 5 phosphate for the purine biosynthesis. So as I said in the last slide, it is the one which is providing the ribose 5 sugars for the synthesis of the nucleic acids. And the molecules glycerol 3 phosphate and fructose 6 phosphate are the one which will be coming out as the product one, which will undergo further recycling one and forms into the glucose 6 phosphate. And another important matter for this NADPH is that in the phagocytosis, it produces the superoxides which will be helping for the rupture of this the external matters, that is the one phagocytized materials and bacteria. It will nullify them or it will rupture them. It is the use of this NADPH. And another one, why this HMP pathway, it is also referred as the HMP shunt, because it involves some reactions of the glycolytic pathway and therefore it has been used as a shunt of the glycolysis. It means that the shuttle service will be there, pull and push way. You can find this word more applicable in the railway usages. So similarly, it is the one which involves in the some reactions which are used as the other parts which will be involving in the very useful reactions. And another one what you can remember here is that there is the formation of erythrospore phosphate will be there as the product that is found in the this oxidative and non-oxidative pathway. It will be used for the synthesis of the aromatic amino acids like the phenylalanine, tyrosine. These are the one which serve as the precursors for the biosynthetic pathways like formation of the melanin will be taken place. For this product will be helping for the synthesis of the amino acids. These amino acids, they act as the precursors for the many biosynthetic pathways, that is in the formation of the melanin. This is how the products that are formed by the HMP pathway are usable in this manner to the body. So it ends with the glycogenolysis and the HMP pathway. So in the next class we'll deal with the some of the diseases that are inherited diseases are there, which will be the one occurring in the many persons because of lack of certain enzymes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, beta.